guys! So the video that I want to do today is kind of long awaited. I haven't actually done one of these before since this is my first kind of end of the year with BookTube when I've been making videos. But I have read quite a few books this year that I really enjoyed, got really hooked into. These aren't necessarily going to be in chronological order. I'm going to try and keep the authors in the series together. The first one, which was by Mara Dyer, amazing fantasy author, I came across through BookTube because it's very well known, is Cinder by Mara Dyer. Gorgeous covers, gorgeous books. It's kind of like a sci-fi fantasy retelling. I think I've done book reviews of these on my channel, so you can find them and I'll link them. Yeah, gorgeous covers, gorgeous books. Each of these books in these kind of fantasy series, it's in a sci-fi world, it's a new world, with androids and all of these characters trying to stop an evil queen from taking over the world and things like that, which is really kind of up my street, I'm not gonna lie. Cinder was the first book, so this is on the list, because this was the book that kind of got me hooked into the series from the very beginning. It's quite easy to talk about this one. It had the essence of when Cinder, the protagonist, and Kai, the prince, end up meeting at the beginning and kind of form their own friendships. It had the kind of natural feel of like the fairy tale, which felt really good. That's what I really liked about all these books. A lot of these books had the kind of atmosphere that you'd imagine from the fairy tales, even though the stories and the characters are technically, completely different. They're just kind of representing the old stories, which is what I really liked. And yeah, Cinder is a cyborg, and she ends up falling in love with the prince, and like Cinderella, she ends up being taken away to the castle, and later on will find her own way of ruling everything, but you'll understand that if you read it. I love the world. The world is kind of being overtaken by this evil queen who wants to control everything, and part of the series ends up wanting to marry the young prince. She's technically related to Cinder, so it's a little bit weird, but yeah, you'll understand that more if you read it. Next book I was going to talk about is Crest, which is the third book in the series. The second one I really enjoyed, but the third one, Crest, which was Rapunzel's or the Rapunzel retelling, I just liked it a lot more because I liked Crest's character from the beginning. She's quite naive and shy, and I just really liked the way all the characters kind of came together in that one, because they all end up meeting and going on these big adventures in their own way throughout the series. I liked Scarlet, and Scarlet hooked me pretty much. Scarlet was Little Red Riding Hood, if you couldn't guess by the title, which was the second book. Crest is the third book, and Crest got me straight in there, and I loved it. I loved the relationship between her and Thorn, who is kind of her prince that she meets. And a lot of the traditional, if you've read Grimm's fairy tales, they're obviously different to how the Disney kind of ones are portrayed, but the old fairy tales are well represented in these stories through what happens in the plot of these books. The next one was Winter by Mara Dyer. Which is the kind of finale in the series, and you can probably understand why I love this one. It was the one that kind of hooked them all together. Winter is the princess, she's the stepdaughter of the queen. Snow White retelling. This was a big chunky book. and made them all come together and everything sort of came to its end, but I loved it from the beginning to the end, and it can. And the fourth one I've got is Fairest by Mara Dyer, which is kind of the prequel to the story, which is the Evil Queen story, which makes you kind of understand why she is the way she is in these first stories, which I really, really liked, because it's always good to see different perspectives of these different characters. Okay, the fifth one I've got is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is one of my favourite authors anyway. Like, I really, really loved her Throne of Glass series. Gorgeous, gorgeous series. Selena or Eden is one of the most kick-ass characters I've ever read or experienced in a book series. She just goes to every level and just whoops everybody's ass, and it was really, really cool to read. But in this series, it's a girl called Fire, who is kind of into Beauty and the Beast and fairy tale retelling, about this girl who ends up killing a wolf, who ends up being kind of like a fae prince's dear friend. So she ends up trapped in his kind of world. It says it's to protect her, but you eventually see all the different reasonings behind her being taken away. And it's really, really cleverly done, and I loved it. Also, there's a lot of quite graphic scenes, which you can't help but enjoy. You should read it to understand what I'm talking about. Let me know what you think down below as well. The sixth one I've got is the sequel to that book, which is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. Which is literally taking that entire story in a completely different direction. You see Fairy's change in who she is after everything that's happened at the end of the first book, and you see her fall in love with someone else. Not to spoil it for you, but you kind of understand her reasonings for that in the second book, because she feels very trapped by the prince. And I don't want to give too many spoilers if you haven't read the first one, but go and read the first one. It's really, really, really good, and the second one's amazing as well. So, the seventh book I have is A Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Which is kind of the end to the first series I talked about, which was Throne of Glass. You've got Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, and Queen of Shadows. Again, like a really, really epic series, fantasy series. And I found out that it's not as obvious, I wouldn't say, but that's just me, that it's a kind of Cinderella retelling. It wasn't as obvious to me, I only found that out through online kind of things, but yeah, another really, really good series, so go for it. And you kind of have to read the first ones to understand how that one all comes up. Number 8 is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkin. This is about a girl who has a lot of issues from the start to the end of the book. She's recently been in this kind of accident with her close friends, and she doesn't really understand what happened because her memories are kind of blurred and fogged, and there's a lot more of these tragic events that start to happen through the rest of the book that make her realise that maybe there's something else going on, and that she's not really crazy or whatever. I have a lot of really, really good books that I've finished this year. I'll probably do individual reviews of these because they're so good. And I will do more update videos, writing videos, tag videos, as we go into 2017, because I really, really enjoy reading, as everyone does on BookTube, and I'm really, really excited to try and update more and film more. And yeah, just talk to you guys about books. So let me know what you thought of these books down below, and I will speak to you soon. Bye guys.